Okay, hey guys, we're waiting for. Hi! I was about to tell the people that we're waiting for you to join the live.
You look
Welcome.
lovely, man.
Thank you, Tim. You look good yourself.
Thank you.
Um, okay, so should we wait for a few more people to join, or
I
must I
think so.
introduce you? Okay, so I
I
see
think we should
the
wait. Let's
yeah,
have
people
some
start coming.
random let's have some random banter
Okay,
while people come on board. So
okay,
where are
cool.
you right now?
I'm at home, in East London. So
You
I'm
in East
quarantining.
London?
Yeah, so I'm quarantining with my family, and my son. Yeah, it's quite nice having people around. And you?
I'm in Johannesburg, and I'm freaking out a little bit because it's weird because my whole family's in the States. So,
Yeah.
seeing all the chaos that's happening in the States and not being
Mm,
able to access them, it's a weird kind of polarizing feeling because I feel
mm,
crazily enough, I feel really safe here. Like the
that's
numbers are low
good.
in South Africa.
Mm,
I feel super safe here, and I feel guilty a little bit. Isn't that crazy? Like I
mm,
feel guilty that my family is going through the most, in terms of being freaked
mm.
out, and then I'm in Africa.
And you feel safe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I sort of get what you mean though, because I've been away from family for quite some time. Where I lived in Cape Town, and I'd be this side. So say if my mom calls and she's sick, it would worry me like completely. So I can imagine what you're going through. And I've been following the stats that side. It's bad. It's
Yeah.
really bad in the
I
states.
think
That is.
I can see a couple people are asking for the topic, so maybe we can get started now.
Oh, okay. So guys, I am Somila Cuntu. I am part of Womandla Foundation. I am the head of entrepreneurship and development. So just a brief background of what Womandla does. We are an all-female organization that supports females, that provides platforms, basically just to uplift women in the periphery. So basically, what today's topic is about is on feminine movements, and also just trying to understand why men struggle to participate basically in such movements, because a consistent message that we send out there is that we are for women but not against men. So we just wanted Timothy's insight in terms of, various aspects of this. That is the socialization of men, basically, in terms of patriarchy, the biology of it, and so on.
Okay, cool. It sounds like it's going to be fun. I mean, for me, one of the things I hope happens is that we leave this conversation with some tools around how we can, how men and women can come together to create synergy, opportunity, especially after this pandemic. Like, what value does this pandemic, what value do men and women coming together have
Mm,
to be help all of us, thrive after this pandemic?
mm, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Just can I just do a brief intro for our people on our Manta page, just to know who you are. So basically, Tim is an author of 4 brand leadership books, one memoir, and consults and speaks on science of human and brand behavior. His research is also focused on 3 pillars, that is brain potential, behavioral science, and brand influence. So yeah, there, there's a wealth of knowledge here.
It's crazy. Like I'm genuinely interested in why we do what we do as human beings and how that impacts stories, everything from I like to frame it as from neurons in the brain to our narrative. What's happening in
Yeah.
the brain and how do we become what we're known for?
Mm,
So that's basically
quite
it. Yeah.
interesting. That's quite interesting. Also, just to add, for the people who've joined our live, you're more than welcome to actually just participate in terms of sending questions, and then we will respond to the questions that you have. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. So, Tim, let me ask you this first and foremost. Do you identify yourself as a feminist?
I identify myself as an ally to the feminist movement. I think it's extremely almost, I don't know. I think a man, there's just certain things we don't know. There's certain things
Okay.
that I think in terms of the entire kind of biology of a woman, there are things you experience in the world that I can't really fully put myself in. So what I can say though is that I'm an ally to the movement in that I genuinely believe that women are women deserve equality and that patriarchy is problematic in that journey. So I see myself as an ally.
Yourself as an okay. You mentioned an important point about patriarchy, but before we can go into that, I'll just ask you like a few questions, and then we can engage on those. Firstly, because we are in a fast-paced, moving world, we in the fourth industrial revolution, and pop culture is taking over as well. What do you think the role of movies, Netflix, and all of that is in terms of perpetuating patriarchy in society?
Yeah, my favorite example is like before the lockdown happened, they were supposed to
Mm.
launch James Bond. And if you think about what James Bond is, he is a manifestation of patriarchy, right? He's a
True.
man who wears a suit, he dominates the world, he conquers every woman, and basically, he epitomizes exactly what the highest level of kind of Western patriarchy means. And
Mm.
so if you look at him as an example, then you can see that the entire world kind of followed the media perpetuates this model. And I think what's crazy
Mm.
for me is that we've kind of accepted it unconsciously.
True.
So if you think of if I say the word CEO to you, if I say CEO, what comes to mind? If we were to study most people's unconscious mind, you would see that the vast
Mm.
majority of people think masculinity. And that's because
Yeah.
the movies and culture has perpetuated this thing. So film, TV plays a major role in us thinking about masculinity and femininity and the roles they play in society. So I would ask everyone the next time they sit down and they look at Netflix, try to choose films and try to choose content where women are portrayed in a way that demonstrates equality. So create that
Mm.
demand in your own home. Make sure when you sit down with your kids that you try to show films and content that portrays women and more in a more equal state. That's a good place to
Mm.
start. And then demand from filmmakers, demand from content creators the sheer like mandate because we people create what people want. And so
True. True.
right, so if you're demanding
Mm.
these masculine roles where women are subjugated, oppressed, etc., they'll keep creating them.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it happens even in the music scene, where music videos are shot and women are almost always objectified. Men are always just the villains. And yeah, we just the objects, like we're busy twerking in videos and all of that sort of stuff. It's never ever the case where or let me rather say, it's hardly ever the case where a woman is basically a dominant figure in all those sorts of things in pop culture.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah, it is.
if you think about twerking, there's nothing wrong with twerking. Twerking is great, but there needs to be balance in the media, right? There needs to
Mm,
be more images that offsets that kind of negative sort of stereotype of women are only made for this thing. And that's my
mm,
thing. There should be a clarion call to, content creators to project um, fair and balanced sort of images in the media. And I think that's
mm,
vital and it's important on every level.
mm.
And it's
Yeah, and it's
sad
so,
that, so I was just going to say, it's sad that, if we were on here twerking, we would have probably 30, 40,000 views. Maybe that's what we should do. Actually, let's start twerking. Let's start twerking. Let's have a twerk off like Tory Lanez and all these guys. Get people on, and then we start talking about deep stuff, right? Let's. It's just the craziest thing. It's like, if you think about the phenomenon of the lockdown, you see that what's rising to the surface, what's getting the most views, what's getting the most engagement is twerking, because it feeds our primitive nature. Yeah.
I saw, that is actually, that's actually, yeah, it's actually quite sad. And also, I believe that women are almost, accepting of that sort of behavior. Because I saw on Twitter the other day, there was a twerking contest where women had to like twerk for men on a live in order to get like money, for instance.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah.
No, but let's talk about that quickly. Let's talk about why that draws our attention. Why are we so obsessed with, we are obsessed as human beings with survival, extending our bloodline, sexuality, and our primitive needs. Conversations like this require energy. Conversations like this require cognitive load. If I log on and somebody is just twerking, backing it up, it feeds my lower sort of energy, and I feel alive. It brings out my unconscious primitive instincts to survive. Conversations like this require so much energy that they get kind of turned off by it. So the question then becomes, how do we energize people to be interested in higher cognitive capacity? Because most people don't even realize that, like I just posted a post now about the endowment effect, about the science.
I was laughing.
Yeah, about the science. Like I posted this deep post about the science. It's going to have very little engagement. But when I was acting silly on my post, I got 5,000 views on one of my videos, right?
Yeah.
It's right. So what is that about? What that about is, and this is my point, that gender equality requires a high level conscious engagement that most people are not interested in, primarily because it requires energy. Twerking does not require any energy to view it. So we got to be smart and go, how do we get people interested in these high level conversations, maybe without twerking, but with the same philosophy of twerking?
I just, I've got two take homes that I have from this, from a part of this conversation. You mentioned something earlier on, and I've never actively thought of it, where you said, what comes to mind when you say the word CEO? And immediately I had an image in my head of a strong, white, dominant male in a suit, standing in a boardroom, basically. So
and
you
that's
see,
media. That's media.
Yeah, that's media, and that's actually very problematic. That I'm also perpetuating that sort of thing, that CEOs. Because even for myself, when I set goals for myself, I see myself at that level, like at way over 40. It's not something that I think is attainable, in the near future, because that's what's been perpetuated. It's older, stronger male figures who are CEOs, who are seen as CEOs. And the second part was where you said that deeper conversations require more energy cognitively. Even in the dating scene, even in my group of friends, you'll see that a lot of females who actually want deeper and meaningful relationships and who actually want to have those sort of conversations will tell you something that is quite consistent, that men are not into that. They just are put off by that. They want you to talk about weaves, vacations, and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, let's do two things real quick. One is that I want people to go to test their own unconscious biases. So in case anyone is judging you, when you said CEO, what came to mind? In case anyone is judging you, I want people to go to www.implicit.harvard.edu. Maybe you guys can post that a little bit later, but it's basically a site that you can test your own implicit biases. You can test your own unconscious baggage.
Okay. .com.
implicit.harvard.edu,
Oh,
not
.edu.
.edu,
Okay.
implicit.harvard.edu. And you can test
Okay, we'll post it later on.
your own bull crap in your unconscious mind. I mean, it's like,
Someone
but
just made a comment here. Let me just
yeah,
read it. It's Jessie Timms. She says that the conundrum of making higher level conversation or narrative challenging content attractive to broader audiences. I don't know if you can see that on your side. I can't.
yeah, yeah, I can kind of see. I mean, basically, it's complex. I mean, again, let's go, let's create a framework. Okay, on the left-hand side is your kind of more liberal, your more kind of, lower primitive self, your deeper
Mm,
needs. Like the reason why we like to be entertained, we like, which is, the reason why porn is such a phenom, like billions and billions of downloads. Like the porn industry has shot up. It's like a
mm,
pandemic proof industry. I was listening to a podcast the other day about how porn stars are making so much more money during the pandemic, guys. These guys are
mm.
killing it right now. Like literally. Why are they killing it? Because people have this deeper unconscious primitive need. Now, if you look at thought leaders who are talking about high level science, they are struggling. Why? And this is very important that we understand this, is that these conversations never really take off until we understand what people's deeper needs are. People are
Mm,
trying to survive. People want to feel good right now. So even me, and the goal of this type of conversation, how do we get people to feel good about this gender equality conversation? How do we get
mm,
people to feel good about the idea that, that I want equality in society? First, we got to acknowledge our own bullcrap. Like,
mm,
you and I were talking in the briefing session. How
mm.
many women genuinely want a soft guy? Like anybody on now, I want you to, like, how many people genuinely want a guy who's, if you think about hip hop lyrics are like, I beat it up, I flipped it over,
Uh,
you know, I
Actually, can
threw
I
her
also
from the
ask?
window to the
Can I also?
walls, to the sweat
can,
drops.
can I also ask the viewers to actually respond to that question? I'd like to. Our female viewers also. Well, it's not necessarily our female viewers. I mean, you get people who are attracted to the same sex. So, can people please just respond to Tim's question that how many women are actually attracted to soft guys? Because I know I'm not.
Yeah,
Personally,
but
I'm
let me
not.
let me unpack this soft thing. Let me talk about specifically why the attraction to alpha male genes are such a thing and why bad boys run rampant. And
Mm,
this is why the equality conversation and why so many men don't come into these conversations is going, our personal experiences when we run rampant,
mm,
when you treat a woman like crap, when you just go in and just pound it and then leave, there is this deeper urge in the unconscious mind to chase those type of men because the assumption is that man is strong, he can provide, he'll be
mm,
able to. That's the unconscious dimension of human behavior. So the question then becomes, if a guy is interested in equality, he's interested in conversations like this, he's deep, he's writing your poetry, it's seen as a weakness because maybe he'll be so caught up in the emotional side of life, he does not execute on a logical level, which means he may not be able to provide. He's so caught up in the soft, nurturing side of life that he may make you vulnerable. So
mm,
there is this deeper kind of movement from a lot of women away from these type of guys. And then guys are
mm,
like, look, unless I am dominant, unless I create this kind of manifestation of masculinity, then what ends
mm,
up happening is you're going to leave me. So why am I going to join this conversation? There is no benefit. So
mm,
trying to create real conversations about this, about the need to go, if my unconscious mind is hoping for this masculine alpha male and I keep pushing away quality conversations, etc., maybe I have to ask myself, is it possible that I feel vulnerable in my own abilities? Is it
mm,
possible that I feel like I'm afraid that if he doesn't provide for me, that while I may be saying consciously that I can provide for myself, but unconsciously
Mm,
I want him to provide for me. And if you have that
mm.
hard conversation with yourself, then you can have the ability to make better choices. That's my point.
Oh, okay. That's deep. I think you've covered the biology side of it, of patriarchy. What really determines how men act in society as well. Um, I see there's a question here, Tim.
Okay.
Someone responded to that question that you asked about dating a soft guy. I'm just trying to get the response. It's Mpungose. She says definitely not. And
So Google
and
Google
there's
needs to know that the percentage of women that's going to be after that same alpha male is very competitive. So she needs to make
mm,
sure that she's up for the game because that guy has options galore and who is going to be all over the place. That is the nature. So alpha males rise to the top of the pyramid and all
mm,
these kind of softer good guys out there at the bottom of the pyramid. These alpha males, because they
mm.
have these powerful genes, are attracting literally the majority of the female population. And people like attractive women like you, attractive women like Sam, and all of you womanla powerful women are going for these same guys, and it's highly competitive. So good luck.
I guess the whole saying that good guys come last really is a reality. It really is a
Yeah,
real
and
thing.
they come last because women women's biology is instinctively wired to be attracted to strength because
True.
if you were to have a child with this person, your biology says, I do not want a weak child. So
Mm,
this is very important to understand is that if you say to yourself that we have to reframe and rewire ourselves to go, what do we need in society? Do we need alpha males or do we need guys with more balance, guys that have a bit more that can, be nurturing so maybe he can stay at home while you work? Would you be open to that? Would you be open to being the person who makes the most money in the home while the man stays home and takes care of the kids? Ask yourself that.
Should I answer that?
Yes,
It's a no. I wouldn't. I genuinely wouldn't. That's
but
that's because
why?
of my socialization, and also just I think the biology side to it is that as a woman, I require a man who will lead and who will be able to take care of the family. And also, if I go into it culturally, there's the whole lobola thing. That is not to purchase a bride, basically, but it's basically so even in my culture it's ingrained, even in my biology it's ingrained. So my culture teaches me that when a man wants to marry me, his family has to come over to my family and pay lobola, and that is surety basically that he will be able to take care of me and to lead the family.
But do you
So
need taken care of as an independent woman? So this is my point. When it comes to religion and culture,
um
you know, I think as a man, like my instincts are to take care of a woman. But the
mm,
question becomes, how are my instincts competing with the fundamental need for equality? How do
mm,
my masculine instincts, how does religion and culture create havoc in this conversation that we're having right now about gender equality? Because if we don't ask these hard conversations, then what's going to end up happening is that women will continue to be objectified, women will continue to be sort of reduced in the workplace, etc. And this conversation that we're having now plays out in the bedroom to the boardroom.
mm. Actually, that was going to be my next question. But yeah, you haven't quite covered it. But my next question was going to be, how does culture and religion influence or affect patriarchy?
So most of us pray to God in the form of a masculinity, right? We go, Father, right?
Mm,
So look, I don't want to get into an intense religious conversation. People People can
People
believe
can,
whatever they want to believe, right?
yeah.
But if your deepest, most foundational beliefs are about masculinity, then it's
Mm.
going to inform how, inadvertently, it's going to inform how you see women. Now, I'm not going to argue whether or not God is a man or a woman. I'm simply saying
Mm.
that, I'm simply saying that you gotta know that if before you go to bed at night, your deepest, deepest prayer life is geared towards you seeing the highest power in the universe as a
Mm.
man, then what that inadvertently does, unconsciously, is positions and repositions how you see a woman. And if I'd love to know from people when it comes to your culture, for example, when you think of and you think of chiefs, when you think of leaders, when you think of anyone, where do you find, how do you put femininity, how do you put estrogen and feminine qualities alongside that? I'd love to know. And again, this is not me promoting anyone to think about, God as a man or a woman. It's just I'm
Mm.
challenging people as a thinker. I want to challenge people to go, if your highest power, if your leaders in the community, if your traditions all make the highest power in that space masculine, where
Mm.
alongside that do you put
Mm.
femininity? And I would just be interested to know.
That question or statement is very thought provoking because, when you are socialized to think a certain way, you don't actually interrogate these sort of things. So for me, thinking of a chief, for instance, that is obviously a man.
Mm,
That is culturally, traditionally, thinking of the highest power in the church, that is usually a man.
yeah.
Religiously and culturally, anyone who holds the highest position in that fraternity usually is a man. So for me, I've never quite questioned that. It's almost like it's the way of life, and that is the normal.
Yeah. Well,
So
so this is
that's
my thing. So the question is always why does this patriarchal force continue to sustain itself and perpetuate, and why is it women continue to be subjugated, abused, etc.? And I'm simply saying that it's possible in our unconscious mind we have reduced women without realizing it because we continue to buy into a lot of these sort of systems that were handed down to us. And my question is always, what do we want to take forward as part of religion and culture? Because I'm not saying get rid of anything. I'm simply saying, what do we want to take forward that serves the gender equality conversation from culture and religion? And what have we outgrown? What is obsolete? What is no more relative? And for
mm,
me, it's a hard conversation to have. It's like, when I go home with my family and I sit down and I question some of the things that I was taught, sometimes you realize that some things were handed down because they were easy to tell the story of, not because
mm,
it
mm.
actually makes any sense. Because
Or
we are
because it's
story,
right.
not because it's right at all, because we are
Mm,
storytelling creatures. As human beings, we tell stories. So anything that's a simple story, we continue to buy into. We continue to honor it. We continue to fall. We continue to lift it up because it's a simple story. And this is my thing is I
sure.
feel like the media plays a massive role in this
Yeah, it
storytelling
does.
dynamic. How do we tell different stories about femininity, about
Mm,
a woman's strength, and then how do we integrate that into culture? It's a challenging
mm,
conversation, but I do feel like there's a lot of creatives and we're in a new content world and we have an opportunity to tell different stories
mm.
about what it means to be a powerful woman.
Yeah, but also I think media is slowly transforming. They are trying to tell those stories. They are trying to put women in the forefront. But I guess it's still, as you said, I think you mentioned something to me where you said that there's a 500 to 600 gap in terms of men having, gotten away with patriarchy. You guys have a 500 to 600 year head start. So we have to catch up on 500, on a precedent of what, 500 to 600 years. And I remember mentioning the whole story on Netflix, the series on Netflix on Madam C.J. Walker, who was an American entrepreneur. She was the first millionaire, self-made millionaire. So even then, she was in a man's world. She tried to break the glass ceiling, but I mean, she started that like hundreds of years ago, but it's still a struggle even to this day. Um, so it really is a struggle being a woman in a man's world, and it's even harder to actually be visible and be heard.
So I wanna come back to this point, but I see there's a comment about how women, often men do get involved, and men do want to drive this conversation, but oftentimes women continue to pull each other down. Women are the ones that continue to sort of, create chaos in this.
Yo.
So I wanna touch on that a little bit. And why is there so much competition with women?
Excuse me.
And one of the reasons why science argues that there's a competitive gene in the particular, like, you don't find 6-year-old girls and you don't find 80-year-old women competing against other girls and other feminine energy. What happens is that when you're in this period of your fertility period, there's this unconscious instinct to be perceived as the strongest, most fertile person in that space. So often, and this is all unconscious. So unconsciously, you find that there is this instinct to be perceived as the strongest and most dominant in a space. So what that requires at times is you to push others out of the way. Is that it's not that I don't want to see this other woman succeed. I want to see myself elevated at the highest level. So, and this is a huge thing when it comes to, you find women in the workplace when there are only a few opportunities for women. One woman rises up and pushes the others out unconsciously because there's this need to be seen as the strongest, most fertile, the most dominant woman in the space. Whereas men, oftentimes you don't find that same competitive dynamic because the need to appear fertile is not there, because our instincts are to go and kind of hunt, not to be seen as that most dominant in that particular pool. So it's a complex scientific theory, but it really does speak to why, while there are a lot of women who are starting to support each other, there's a lot of women movements like the movement you guys have started that do show women coming together, but there are a lot more instances where women are pulling each other down because of that kind of unconscious competitive instinct around the need to appear the most fertile in that short window. Because remember, from the time you're like 16, 17, 18, and you're in your peak of your fertility period in your early 20s and 30s, once you get to that space, or that career leading space in your mid 30s to 40s, that feeling, that need, that unconscious need that I am leaving my fertility window is a very deep instinct in human nature that no one ever speaks about. No one speaks about this because it's highly controversial. But there's strong science that backs up that idea that once you're leaving that fertility window, let me flip it back on men, for example. When a man is going bald in their 30s and 40s, why do we shave it off? Why do we shave our hair off?
Because it makes you probably look younger and you look less attractive.
Yeah, we don't want to look like we leaving our fertility window.
Oh, okay.
Right? So what we try to do is mask that. We put on hats, we shave, we do everything we could possibly do. And this is my point, is that the need to feel like we're still dominant in that fertility window is very, very strong. So anyway,
so
it informs
biology to
the biology to it is very,
to
very strong. And here's the point. When you have all of this information, what do you do with it? The point is that what you do with it is that you've got to say to yourself, when I am in the middle of this situation where I feel myself pulling another woman down, I feel myself, if you can go, I understand that my instinct is to be seen as number one. But what I'm going to do is reframe that and go, me being seen as stronger means bringing people in. So it
Yes.
requires a conscious sort of shift and being highly conscious and aware.
And
And
pray
for
for
me,
yourself.
exactly. Yeah, pray, do whatever you can do. But the most important thing is to be aware that your instincts and your
Uh,
conscious agenda often has a huge collision.
uh,
That sometimes there is a massive collision between what I know logically to be right and what my unconscious instincts feel like doing.
mm.
You with me?
Yeah. I that's a mouthful, and actually it makes a whole lot of sense. And yeah, really, some things that we see in society, some things that people's actions are just symptomatic. So there are deeper layers to this whole
Yes.
thing. And
Yeah.
understanding why patriarchy exists, it has to do with our cultural backgrounds, our religious backgrounds, as well as the biology and science behind it. So I think when you have that knowledge, you are then better able to deal with certain issues, say in the workplace. For
Yeah.
instance, I saw someone tweeted where they said they have this male colleague who, in the boardroom, when a woman tries to make a statement and other men are making a noise or speaking over their voice, he would actually stop whoever is making a noise and ask her to make her point. And that's something that usually happens. It happens so many times where I'm sitting in a meeting and I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to put my point across, and some dominant person, speaks over my voice. I end up feeling, threatened, or I just, withdraw my point or whatever it
Sure.
is. So,
I, I think as this conversation matures, can I share some fun science to help all of us understand why this chaos continues to happen between men and women? And
please.
I'm gonna go back to this twerking thing. So why is twerking so powerful? Why is twerking such a fundamental part of social media phenomenon? So I want to break down something really quick. I want everybody to follow this. In fact, I'm going to give you guys a moment to share this live because what I'm going to share now is going to blow people's mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So when the booty cheeks are moving, when the booty is flopping,
Is this like
what's
the science to
happening?
twerking?
Yes, this is the science to twerking. But it's more importantly, it's going to be illuminating on a lot more levels. So stay with me, okay? Because this may seem trivial, but it's extremely serious. When the booty cheeks are moving, what's happening to the unconscious mind? What's happening to the unconscious mind of the man when he's watching this? You've seen, I don't know if you saw DJ Khaled when he was when this woman came on and started twerking. He's like, no, 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 and Tory Lanez and all these people. What's happening? Here's what's happening. The hips and the buttocks of a woman has a specific fat deposits that create the healthiest part of breast milk. So
Oh.
there are fat deposits in different parts of your body. There are fat deposits in different parts of your body as a woman that creates the nutrients to breast milk. And the healthiest part of breast milk come from the hips and the buttocks.
Yay.
So unconsciously, a man is looking at the twerking going, you can serve nutritious milk if I were to have a baby with you. Like, if you notice.
That's so insightful.
No, but think about this.
But funny at the same time.
If you notice, when a woman with a curvaceous situation walks by and a guy goes, yo, 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 what's driving the yo, 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 and what's driving the interest in this is specifically the fact that that region of the body is the most nurturing when it comes to serving the healthiest part of breast milk. Now, this is important. No man has ever seen a woman with a really flat, they're like flat, flat, flat. No one has
Mm.
ever saw a woman with a flat butt walk by and go, yo, 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 yo. The reason why,
Hi, man. The
yo,
comments are wild, Tim. The
no,
comments are
listen,
wild.
but it's true. The point is this. The primary reason why the
Alistair says
excitement,
nutrition is important.
yeah, but the primary reason why, and this is key, the primary reason why the instinct is there to respond. Like if you look at, there's no 7, 8, 9-year-old boy who looks at a woman and goes, yo, 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 yo. That only happens in our fertility window because our unconscious mind is designed to scan every human being to decide, is that person healthy? If I were to have a child with that person, if I were to network with that person, are they healthy? This is why, for example, our brains are constantly on stealth mode. Our brains are constantly on stealth mode. We're constantly scanning to go, and even in a networking environment, let's bring this back to business. Even in a networking environment, we are scanning people to go, is this person healthy? If I get their number and I do a deal with them, are they strong? Will we be able to work together? This is important. So if you see someone, for example, who has 3 eyes, why are you put off by that? It's because your unconscious mind is going, maybe there's a problem with this person. So our instincts are extremely strong and we're constantly scanning to decide. This is why makeup is such a powerful thing. Makeup mimics and creates the appearance of health. Makeup mimics and creates the appearance that I'm healthy, I'm flawless. So let's do stuff together. Let's engage. So it triggers the unconscious mind. And so what we have to be aware of is that simple things like understanding that the buttocks carries the deepest nutrition for breast milk, the fat cells for breast milk, and this is why we're drawn to that, then it gives you the ability to go, my unconscious is not going to dominate me. I'm not going to be drawn towards this person because, you know, I'm loyal, I'm responsible, this is who I am. It's like DJ Khaled, like, whoa, whoa, stop. I got a family.
I saw that video.
He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. But you
Someone
saw
actually
that he
just
was,
made a comment. Someone
yeah,
just made a comment and she said, no wonder twerking like dances were a long part of cultural initiation ceremonies. So you see, for instance, even in Swaziland, when the king is ready to pick a wife, it's like large numbers of women have to stand there and they literally do like a twerking dance. So I
yeah.
think that is how he scans and picks his
Well, I mean, I think
prospective wife.
yeah, it's a bit more complicated, but the roots of it are exactly that. It's that these young girls are coming into their fertility period, they're virgins, and the idea is that the strength of their femininity and their femininity is on display. And so these are ancient rituals and ancient cultures that go back to our primitive need to be able to identify the strongest, most fertile people in a region because we want to pass on the strongest genes because proportion and health manifest itself in the body, which is why you find people now having surgery galore, trying to
Yup.
project the health of their femininity, the health of their fertility. So if we don't understand this stuff, then what we end up doing, it's why filters are such a powerful thing on social media. You put out a filter, you make your waist smaller because I'm trying to project strength in my fertility, power in my fertility, to be seen as the most dominant, most powerful person in the gene pool.
Sam Gomo just asked a question. She says, what is a woman's mind scanning for unconsciously in a man?
Same thing, balance,
Strength and
strength.
power.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's a study that shows that when a woman is ovulating, you seek men that have broader shoulders, for example. This is one of the reasons why guys who have smaller waist, broader shoulders oftentimes run rampant because during ovulation, it's also the reason why. Now, let me challenge you this. Let me challenge you on this. You know, did you know that 30% of happily married women, women who are happy, happy, happy. 30%, the man is raising a child that he thinks is his, but is not.
Ah!
Why? And there's even a saying.
I never expected that one.
There's even a saying in like different cultures. I think even in Zulu, there's a saying that's only a woman knows. I don't know if you've heard that saying before, but it basically translates to only a woman knows. Some people on here, they've heard that before. But the simple idea is that oftentimes you can be extremely happy with a person, but if they have during ovulation, you're seeking unconsciously, not consciously, you're not even thinking about it, but unconsciously you're drawn to stronger genes that in case I were to have a child, it would give my child the best chance of survival. That's the point. So being able to understand this unconscious instincts can help us navigate this space. So the same thing, men, even when we wear a suit, we wear broader shoulder suits and we make our the waist is V, and that is designed to show masculinity and strength, because we know that, the opposite sex, if they're attracted to men, they're attracted to that broader shoulder, smaller waist dynamic.
Someone, Ulungile Zapi, just translated that saying in vernac. He says, Abafazi, bafabazi, meaning women die knowing the truth.
You see, this is my point. So even culture has made provision for this thing, because they know that there are times in this, particularly your cycle, that oftentimes you look at the person you love deeply and you're not as drawn to them. Now, why are we talking about this? We're talking about the biology that we face that goes often contrary to what our goals are in terms of gender equality. And if you're not aware what's drawing you, for example, you can be in a relationship and you are super happy with your partner, but you're at the beach staring at somebody else's body. If you don't understand why that's happening, you may think your partner is lacking something, but your partner is not lacking anything. And this goes to the reason why men cheat. Let me break this down scientifically.
Please, we want to know.
Let me break this down so that we never have to talk about this again. It will be recorded, guys.
No, this is definitely going to be on record.
So the primary reason scientifically is unconsciously. You find men who are so consciously into their woman, loyal. They think about their woman all the time. They are just focused on their woman. But unconsciously, this need to secure our bloodline by having variety in the bloodline. So let's say, for example, I have a baby with you and then something happens to you. Then what happens is my unconscious instincts suggest that by spreading and strengthening my chance of having and preserving my legacy, by having multiple bloodlines active, by activating multiple bloodlines. Let me make this clear. I want to repeat this. By activating multiple bloodlines, I secure my genetic legacy. I secure my
Father
ability
Abraham.
to. You with me? So stay with me. Now, that is a primitive desire. We don't live in that society anymore. So as a man, I have to consciously override that instinct. I have to consciously speak to myself and say to myself that my desire for my genetic security by spreading my seeds in multiple bloodlines is obsolete. So I have to tell myself that. But if I don't tell myself that, my unconscious instincts will have me going out doing it, even though I've consciously engaged with one woman. I've consciously made a contract. So I cannot have my bloodline and my genes only in one bloodline. So that deeper instinct to be all over the place, put simply, is genetic. And the people who rise above that to control it, it requires a deep level of introspection. It requires a deep level of maturity. even faith. It requires all kinds of stuff. Because when you
Mm.
see someone with a curvaceous situation, you're drawn to it magnetically
Mm.
because of the strengthening and securing your genetic legacy. And
Mm.
the only way, and this is if we don't start teaching young kids this at an early age, we
Mm.
stand no chance of dealing with this. Because by the time you are 20 some years old, 30 some years old, if you haven't been taught this, you just kind of operate like a robot and you follow your primitive instincts without even realizing it.
So basically, what I take from what you're saying is that for men to not cheat, they have to be extremely intentional about it. You mentioned faith. You mentioned basically self-control, because it's easier for us to actually not
Because people,
engage in
you're,
extramural
you're,
activities.
but here's the thing. Let's talk about that real quick. People go, why, if a man can do it, a woman can do it. But
Mm.
when a woman does it, the primary reason why you don't have the same level of desire to do it at the same intensity is because let's say you have sex in a cycle with three different guys, like a guy does. A guy goes out, he has sex with three different women. If you have sex with um, three different guys, and
Mm.
you get pregnant, then if you don't use a condom, then whose kid is it? So that's the reason why the drive is not as intense for women. Yes, it is
Mm.
there oftentimes with some women, but for the majority of women, the drive to be all over the place goes against what we call the parental investment theory. The parental investment theory suggests that the instinct to be all over the place reduces and put risk for your kids if you were to have kids. So
Mm.
men are being driven by the genetic instinct to spread seeds to secure your bloodline. Women are driven by the instinct to know who's the father so that we can secure the father,
Mm.
so we can secure the child. And so those
Mm.
instincts at a very instinctual level are very different. And of course, in the modern society, women, sometimes you can have sex with multiple partners and no one should judge you, whatever. But the point is that on a larger scale, this is the unconscious scientific reason why.
Hmm. Sam says, don't be making excuses.
No, the point, I'm not making excuses. My point is just understanding it, not to make excuses. I'm simply saying
Yeah.